So Claudio spoke of networking to identify common issues between different industries. And I think you will find that you have some issues in common with the exploration of deep space, exploration of the inner planets and the outer planets. So how many of you have heard of JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory? How many of you have heard of NASA? Oh, a little more. Well, it's my great privilege to be part of the only team that will be the first to explore the solar system. The NASA Caltech Jet Propulsion Laboratory is the world's premier research and development center for the robotic, that is unmanned, exploration of the solar system. Indeed, Voyager 1 has now left the solar system and is operating in interstellar space. I act as a deputy to the chief engineer of JPL, as well as serving as the JPL Chief Knowledge Officer, the CKO. I also serve on the board of directors of the 63rd Reliability and Maintainability Symposium, RAMS. Some of you may have attended that. My background is in reliability engineering, including 20 years as a NASA reliability engineer before I joined the JPL office of the chief engineer. So here are some other JPL firsts. The Mariner 2 Venus probe in 1962, for example, was the first successful interplanetary spacecraft. I believe this may be the golden age of space exploration. I'm not about to bore you with describing all 47 current space flight missions at JPL, but I'd like to highlight a couple JPL projects. And incidentally, 80% of NASA projects are international partnerships. The Curiosity rover is a mission you've probably heard of. The most recent of 4 rovers, JPL has successfully landed on Mars. I plan to show you a video in a few minutes that will highlight one of the reliability engineering challenges in the design of this mission. The rover is about the size and mass of a small car. It uses nuclear power instead of solar panels because of the latitudes on Mars in which it operates and because of the power demands of the instrument suite, including a laser cannon that samples boulders. JPL's goals include finding if Gale Crater ever had conditions favorable for microbial life. It's already expanded our understanding of Mars's habitability for future human exploration of Mars. Curiosity has already completed its primary 2-year mission, and its operation has been extended indefinitely. Plus, a Mars 2020 rover modeled on Curiosity is in development at JPL. So having personally moved from the field of reliability engineering to the field of knowledge management, I'd like to suggest to you that a threat to the continuing success of your company is your ability to make good use of what you know. In some industries, firms invest more in knowledge-based capital than they do in physical capital, such as equipment and buildings. Yet, knowledge is often treated as if it has little or no value in terms of reuse. Many of you who are reliability engineers had to learn statistics in school. Now you attend conferences like this one, or RAMS, my conference, to learn the latest statistical techniques. Clearly that knowledge still has value to you and you seek to retain it. The Romans used pozzolan concrete to build large structures. Here you see the Pantheon on the left, the Colosseum, and Roman baths. But the formula for concrete was lost for 1,000 years until a textbook was discovered in the year 1414. They built Roman baths from England to Turkey And then the world forgot how to make large concrete structures. It's even easier for a company to lose the knowledge that is critical to their competitive edge. So what knowledge is critical to JPL to retain and share internally if it's to continue to explore deep space? Well, JPL spacecraft are high unit value, often one of a kind, that must operate with precision in an extremely hostile environment. Deep Impact on the right there traveled 268 million miles, 431 million kilometers at 64,000 miles per hour to hit a small target. Accomplishing that is what I call extreme engineering. As complex as a spacecraft and rover design may be, the mission design may be more complex. This graphic depicts the series of steps in achieving entry, descent, and landing for the office desk size, about half the size of that table, Spirit and Opportunity rovers in 2004. The entire process of achieving Mars orbit and descending to a touchdown takes about 9 hours. In the case of the 2012 landing of Mars Science Laboratory, also known as Curiosity, I believe there were actually 76 pyrotechnic devices like pin pullers that had to fire in sequence. The lander had to separate from the cruise stage and then enter at the precise angle of attack so the lander doesn't skip off the atmosphere of Mars or heat too much in the case of a low angle of attack. Then there are events that trigger parachute deployment, heat shield separation, and by the way, separation without recontacting the lander, inflation of the airbags, at least for the 2004 lander, and deployment of spring-loaded wheels and manipulator arms. And because we can't communicate with the lander during EDL, software reliability is a big concern. If it takes 2 years to get to Mars, and let's say operates for 10 years on the Martian surface, you have a total 12-year mission, but 90% of your risk, the risk of mission failure, may lie in the last 7 minutes of EDL, the last 7 minutes prior to touchdown, when most of the events depicted here take place. The 7 minutes of terror. This video highlights some of the technical challenges related to just achieving a landing on Mars. As you watch it, I'd like you to consider two things. First, the reliability engineering challenge in successfully triggering these sequences over the course of 7 minutes after the system has traveled millions of kilometers. And secondly, the impact on JPL as an organization and its Mars exploration program if JPL did not have a Mars mission every 5 years or so. Would we be able to retain the technical knowledge of how to land on Mars?
When people look at it, it looks crazy. That's a very natural thing. Sometimes when we look at it, it looks crazy. It is the result of reasoned engineering thought, but it still looks crazy. From the top of the atmosphere down to the surface, it takes us 7 minutes. It takes 14 minutes or so for the signal from the spacecraft to make it to Earth. That's how far Mars is away from us. So when we first get word that we've touched the top of the atmosphere, the vehicle has been alive or dead on the surface for at least 7 minutes.
Entry, descent, and landing, also known as EDL, is referred to as the 7 minutes of terror because we've got literally 7 minutes to get from the top of the atmosphere to the surface of Mars, going from 13,000 miles an hour to 0 in perfect sequence, perfect choreography, perfect timing, and the computer has to do it all by itself with no help from the ground. If any one thing doesn't work just right, it's game over.
We slam into the atmosphere and develop so much aerodynamic drag. Our heat shield, it heats up and it glows like the surface of the sun. 1,600 degrees.
During entry, the vehicle is not only slowing down violently through the atmosphere, but also we are guiding it like an airplane to be able to land in a very narrow, constrained space. This is one of the biggest challenges that we're facing, and one that we had never attempted on Mars.
Mars is actually really hard to slow down because it has just enough atmosphere that you have to deal with it. Otherwise, it will destroy your spacecraft. On the other hand, it doesn't have enough atmosphere to finish the job. We're still going about 1,000 miles an hour. So at that point, we use a parachute.
The parachute is the largest and strongest supersonic parachute that we've ever built to date. It has to be able to withstand 65,000 pounds of force, even though the parachute itself only weighs about 100 pounds.
When it opens up that fast, it's a neck-snapping 9 Gs.
At that point, we have to get that heat shield off. It's like a big lens cap blocking our view of the ground to the radar. The radar has to take just the right altitude and velocity measurements at just the right time, or the rest of the landing sequence won't work.
This big, huge parachute that we've got, it'll only slow us down to about 200 miles an hour. And that's not slow enough to land. So we have no choice, but we've got to cut it off and then come down in rockets. Once we turn those rocket motors on, if we don't do something, we're just going to smack right back into the parachute. So the first thing we do is make this really radical divert maneuver. We fly off to the side.
Diverting away from the parachute, killing our horizontal velocity and our vertical velocity, getting the rover moving straight up and down so it can look at the surface with its radar and see where we're going to land. And we head straight down to the bottom of a crater, right beside a 6-kilometer high mountain.
We can't get those rocket engines too close to the ground, because if we were to descend propulsively with our engines all the way to the ground, we would essentially create this massive dust cloud. That dust cloud could then go and land on the rover. It could damage mechanisms and it could damage instruments. So the way we solve that problem is by using the sky crane maneuver.
20 meters above the surface, we have to lower the rover below us on a tether that's 21 feet long, and then gently deposit it on its wheels on the surface.
As the rover touches down and is now on the ground, the descent stage is in a collision course with the rover. We must cut the bridle immediately and fly the descent stage to a safe distance from the rover.
Like engineers at JPL, you are doing difficult technical work and taking technical risks. So it behooves you to act as a champion and to encourage your co-workers to champion the retention and sharing of knowledge that may be reusable, to make good use of what your company knows.